Well, hello. Good morning, Soul City Church. How are we doing today? Good? No? Yeah. Mediocre. You're good. How are the rest of you doing today? There we go. That's all. That's just, just need that. Just need to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Good morning. My name is Jarrett. I'm one of the lead pastors here at Soul City, and we're so glad that you carved out this time to connect with God, to grow in a relationship with God. For those of you who may be skeptical or kind of on a journey and trying to figure out this whole faith thing, our hope is that you would find and follow Jesus through the work of this church and its people. And so we are so glad you're here, whether you're here in person or whether you're with us online. For those of you who are online, we're so glad that you are here as well. Let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. It's always fun for people to shout out where they were at. As Dave mentioned, we're in a teaching series called Coming Home based on the album that we're releasing next week, and all of these songs have a story. And today we're going to unpack one of the songs and the story behind it about what do we do when we come up against hardship and trial and things that feel overwhelming in our life. And I don't know about you, but I've found myself at times in places where I did not think I was going to be or supposed to be. Have you ever found yourself doing something that was not what you thought it was going to be? Like what you signed up was not what you showed up to? You ever had an experience like that? You're like, I thought like it was going to be this, but then I got there and it was very much not like this. Like maybe a job. Maybe you took a job. You're like, oh, interviews went great, everything went great, and then your first day in the job, you're like, no, this place is toxic. I need to get out of here now. This is not what I signed up for, right? We all had those. Maybe for you, it was like a group hangout with your friends. You're like, oh, it's fun. Yeah, it's going to hang out. It's going to have drinks. It's going to do whatever. But then you find out that they actually secretly are setting you up with someone else in that circle. That could be good, could be bad. You don't know, right? It's not what you signed up for. That's not what you showed up for. Another one that always happens is when a friend asks you to move. Oof. If they were a real friend, they wouldn't ask, right? They ask you to move, and have you ever showed up and realized like, oh, they're not even packed. This is not what I signed up for. I remember when I was in college, the first of my friends to get married had an apartment, and they were going to move into this little condo. And so he said, hey, can you come help me move? I'm like, yeah, no problem, not a problem. I had no idea that when I showed up there that morning, that they had not only not rented a moving truck of any kind, they didn't even have boxes. So we spent half the day putting all of their belongings, this is a true story, into black trash bags. Then we had to drive them in my 84 Honda Accord back and forth between that. That was not what I signed up for. That was clearly not what I signed up for. Or we have a bunch of folks that are running the Chicago Marathon, around 100 or so folks from our church that are running the marathon. Give it up for our runners right now. Let them know. Their training is getting real. Like their long runs are crossing over into double digits right now, and it may not be like what they thought they signed up for, right? I remember when I ran the marathon, it was like, oh man, this got real quick. The first experience or exposure I had at the marathon was, this was years and years ago. It was the first time I'd only been in Chicago for a year. And our friend Amy was running the marathon, and she asked Jeannie and I if we would support her and come help her out like around mile 19, mile 20 or something like that, just encourage her. And those of you who've ever done that before, it's an awesome thing to do. The marathon literally goes in front of our church. So our whole church goes out and celebrates the marathon every year. And so we're like, yeah, we'll do a little sign, we'll show up, we'll make it fun. Well, she eventually gets to us. We were at mile 19. She eventually gets to us, and she was feeling some kind of way. She was not in a great place. And so I kind of threw my sign away, and I hopped over, and I'm like, hey, I'll go with you. I'll run with you. I'll kind of carry you to the next mile. And so I carried her, walked with her and ran with her to mile 20, and then to 21, and then to 22, and then to 20. And it kept going. And then it got to that point where you can't get out anymore. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, and then we were coming to the end of the marathon. And it's also, if you've ever done the marathon, the end is kind of the important part. That's the best part. And it's super exciting. And so as we're coming, I'm cheering her on. I'm going, Amy, you did it. Look, we did it. You did it. And we crossed the finish line. Everyone's cheering. If you've been there, you know, they give you bagels. They give you bananas. They give you beer. They give you all the bees when you cross the finish line. And someone came up to me. And again, please keep in mind, I'm in jorts and Vans. I did not sign up for a marathon, but I crossed the finish line, and someone said, and this is a true story that Jeannie cannot stand to this day, do you want a medal? Now that's an open-ended question. And Jeannie would tell you that a good Christian would say, no sir, no ma'am, I did not compete in the marathon. But I said, yeah! and I took a medal, and I get the silver thing wrapped around me, and I'm walking around. I just did a 10K, but I treated it like I won the whole thing, right? I did not sign up to do a marathon that day, but when I showed up, that's what I ended up doing. We all have those things in our life where what we signed up for is not what we show up to. And I think one of the biggest places that we do this in our life, honestly, is in a relationship with God. I think a lot of us, maybe those of us who call ourselves Christians or followers of Jesus, sort of we come to faith with one idea of how it is, or a couple ideas of what we think it's supposed to be, what we think the point, what we think the purpose is. And maybe for you, like you came to faith and you thought, yeah, the whole reason I'm saying yes to Jesus is so my life gets better. And it's supposed to get better. Less problems, less pain, kind of just up and to the right for the rest of my life to heaven. And then life happens. And you realize that it's not like maybe what you thought you were signing up for. And challenges come. And hardships come. And difficulty comes. And pain comes. How do you respond when those things happen? Who do you get angry at? Who are you disappointed with when it doesn't go the way you thought it was supposed to go? God, of course. How could you, God? This is not what I signed up for. This is not how I thought it was supposed to be. But could it be that the life you thought you were getting with God is not the life God promised you with him? That there might actually be a difference, especially when it comes to the challenges, the difficulty, the pain of our life. And could it actually, in fact, be better than you even thought it was? Those of us who are trying to walk this life with Jesus through all of its ups and downs, just a simple question to consider today, and it's just this: is your faith bigger than what you face? I want you to think about whatever you're facing right now, hardships, challenges, difficulty, pain, loss, whatever's going on in your life right now. Is the faith that you have bigger than what you are actually facing? Can it handle hard things? Can it handle things like when you are drowning in debt and you don't know if you will ever come out? Can it handle when you get blindsided by a breakup and you feel so rejected, you feel so alone, you feel so defeated, so discouraged? Can it handle when you lose someone you love and you have no good answers why a good God would allow that to happen in your life? Can your faith lead you to where you can't get to on your own? Is it somehow simultaneously grounded in the painful realities of life and yet bigger than the reality of this world? Is your faith bigger than what you are facing? And I want to be really clear, what I'm talking about here is I'm not talking about how you need more faith. You know, if you just had more faith, you wouldn't have any problems. You ever had anyone tell you that? Well, if you just had more faith, that wouldn't be happening in your life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how hard you believe. I'm talking about what's at the heart of what you believe. Is it big enough for the challenges, the difficulty, the pain, the loss that you will face in your life, whatever that may be? Well, not surprisingly, Jesus has a few things to say about this, and he says them, as we're going to see today, in all caps. He is not unclear. In fact, Jesus is not naive at all about pain and loss and suffering. He experienced it himself, and he doesn't want us to be naive about it in our relationship with God. He has a way, as we're going to see here in a moment, of not only saying it like it is, but how it could be in a relationship with God. And what I want to share with you today is we're just going to do one single verse. But I believe that this little piece of perspective from Jesus has the power to radically reframe whatever it is that you may be facing right now in your life or will ever face. So let's get to that one verse. It's in John 16. So if you're here in this room, there should be a Soul City Bible. You can turn to page 876 in the Soul City Bible. If you're new around here, like literally right underneath your seat, right there next to the life preserver, right there, pull that out. There's a Bible. And you can turn to page 876. If you're with us online or you prefer to do it on your phone, open a tab, open the app, do whatever you want to do, to John chapter 16. Now, let me give some context as to where we're at. Dave just led us through a moment of communion, which comes just shortly after, actually, what we're going to look at here today. This is in John 16. What we have here is Jesus, in John 15, in the chapter before, gives his disciples, his followers, gives us a vision of what a life connected to God looks like. He calls us to connectedness with God. He talks about what happens when you are in God, when God is in you, when you are connected to God. how you cannot help but grow. And then in John 17, what Jesus actually does is he prays for our unity. He prays for anyone who would follow him to actually be one, because this life not only doesn't work disconnected from God, it does not work disconnected from one another. But then right there in the middle of this little huddle he's having with his followers before he heads to the cross, there's John 16. And in John 16, Jesus ain't playing. He ain't playing in John 16. He's got all the vision of a connected life and all the vision of a life together. He's like, but here also this. John 16. He gives us a reality sandwich. And right there, what we see in John 16 is in between Jesus' vision of a life that's inseparable from God and a life inseparable from each other. He describes that as also a life that is inseparable from pain and from loss and from challenges. And in this sobering section of his final words to those first followers, Jesus tells them in John 16, within a few short verses, all that was about to come into their world. In just a few short verses in John 16, he tells them that he is leaving them. He is going. He tells them that they'll be rejected by the religious leaders of their day, that they'll be persecuted and even put to death for their beliefs, that they will suffer great loss, that they will actually be split apart, that they would actually abandon Jesus, and that people one day would actually believe that LeBron is a better all-time player than Jordan. Jesus, okay, that part's not in the Bible, but it could have been. Sign of the end of days, it could have been. Could have been. Hard things that Jesus is saying. That they will endure, they will suffer, they will go through. The picture he paints ain't pretty in John 16. And all of it is underlined by what he just told them. He will not be here with them when that all happens. He is going. He tells them all of that to tell them this in John 16:33. Jesus said these words. He said, I've told you all that. All these things so that in me you may have what? In me you may have peace. Say it again. In me you may have peace. Because in this world you will have what? Trouble. You will have trouble. But he says, but take heart. Yeah. Take heart. I have overcome the world. That's the good news. Bad news is problems, pain, they're coming. Good news is I've already overcome the world. And peace is actually possible for you. I told you all these hard things so that I could tell you this. Peace is possible. Problems, they're predictable, but peace is possible for you. It's possible for you. It's possible for me. That's what Jesus wants them to get before he leaves them and leaves this earth. Now, there is a lot that's going on. There is a lot going on in this one simple verse. And so I thought what we could do maybe is I wanted to walk around. As I was preparing for our time together, I thought, let's just walk around this verse a few times and see what God has for us in each of the little parts of this simple idea, this perspective shifter for the pain and the hardships that we may face. Let's go to that first phrase that Jesus says. He says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have, remember what he said? In me you may have peace. In me you may have peace. Where does Jesus say that peace is found? Is it found in our circumstances and everything going our way? Is it found in us avoiding hard and risky things in our life? Is it found in our politics? Is it found in that meditation app that you signed up for during COVID and you didn't realize they're charging you $70 a year for it? Is it found, just a hypothetical, is it found in any of those external things? Jesus says, no. It is always and only found in me. And that's a promise. Jesus promises you peace in him, because he says, here's what, you can count on me for peace, and you can count on this world for problems. In me, you'll have peace. In this world, you will have what? You will have trouble. You will have problems. You will have pain. You will have loss. There will be heartaches. There will be heartbreaks. There will be setbacks. There will be letdowns. There will be dark nights of the soul. There will be valleys of the shadow of death. And you'll think you've got nothing left, because that's honestly all this world can offer you in the end. But he says, but in me, there's peace. There's peace. And I know that so many of us, all of us, have faced our own struggles and challenges and hardships, and some of us are in the middle of them today. In fact, it may have been all you could do to get here. In fact, maybe you couldn't even get here, but you're joining us online because you feel so overwhelmed. You feel so undone. You feel so defeated. You feel so discouraged. by what you're facing, by what you're up against right now. And you know how I know that's true for you? Because it's true for me too. And I've shared here on stage, we've been pretty honest and open about the last 4 years have marked a significant amount of loss for our family. A significant amount of funerals, a significant amount of goodbyes, significant amount of change as we tried to navigate, as we all did, how to keep a church growing and thriving in the midst of the world shutting down. It has been a hard and challenging, at times, a really difficult season. I know this personally, and I bet if I were to take this little tiny mic off and pass it around to each of you, you could say, yeah, here's what it's been like for me. Here's what I've faced. Here's what I'm facing actually right here, right now, in this moment. And the promise of Jesus is so important here because he promises us peace not in this world, but peace in him. And I love that in light of all that he knew that all that you and I would face, he says this, whatever it is that you may be facing, he gives this little encouragement. He says these 2 little words, take heart. Take heart. You take heart. Whatever it is that you are up against, here's what I want. You may be taking everything you've got, but you take heart. You take heart. Now that little phrase is doing a lot of work. That little phrase, take heart, means to be encouraged. That little phrase means to actually have courage, to find a confidence in you that while things may be hard, they're not the end of the story. Take heart. Take heart. Do not give up. Do not give up. Why? Because Jesus says, I've overcome the world. That's why you can take heart. Not because you're hoping that maybe one day it'll get easier or better. No. You take heart. You find that courage. You be encouraged because I have already overcome the world. And as I was studying and preparing, and I've read this verse a number of times throughout my life, I don't think I ever paid attention to the tense of what Jesus uses here. Do you notice that what he uses here when he says, I have overcome the world, he's using past tense. And that's incredibly important in John 16 because this is before the cross. This is before an empty tomb. This is before he ascends to heaven to go and prepare a place for you. Before all of that, Jesus says, I already have. He does not say, I'm thinking about overcoming. He doesn't say, well, I'm going to try and do this. We'll see how it goes overcoming. He doesn't say, one day maybe I will. No, he says, I've already done it. It's done. It's established. It's secure. I have already overcome. Past tense. He already had defeated the systems and the structures of this world that can only lead to pain and loss and hurt and disappointment. He says, listen, I've already won before the battle even begun. Yeah. I'm already victorious. I have overcome. And if he has already overcome, do you know what that means for you and me? Yeah. You have already overcome. You are an overcomer. You've overcome more than you may even realize. When you enter into a relationship with Jesus, you get to claim that confidence of the one who has actually overcome. You get to hold that in your heart, that whatever comes your way, no, I am an overcomer. I am already victorious from the start. When life gets hard, I'm going to take heart because I know the one who's overcome. I know that whatever it is that comes at me, I already know how this is going to go. Christ in me is greater than anything that comes at me in this world. That's the confidence that you can have when you take heart and you align your life with the one who has already overcome, period, end of sentence. I've already overcome. You've overcome. So no matter what you bring at me, world, no matter what you bring at me, Satan, no matter what you bring at me, family, no matter what you bring at me, work, no matter what you bring at me, city, I know that there's one in me that's greater than all of it. He's already overcome. And so that doesn't mean this isn't going to be hard. That doesn't mean this isn't going to be a challenge, but I know the one who's overcome. He knows me by name. He knows my pain. He knows when it's hard. He knows my heart. And he knows that no matter what it is that I am facing or will ever face, I can actually know that I can overcome. Now, that does not mean that it's not difficult. I'm not trying to diminish it at all. It doesn't mean that it's not difficult. It doesn't mean that it's not demanding. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it's actually not hard. It just means that you take heart because it will never be bigger than Jesus. Ever. And I know it feels overwhelming to you. You cannot see a way out or around. I'm telling you, it's not bigger than Jesus. Because he's actually already overcome it. So you can take heart, my sister, take heart. Take heart, my brother. Take heart, friend. This is not the end of your story. This is not the final word. That belongs to Jesus. So take heart. Take heart. I think of all the folks in our church who inspire me, who amaze me by how they keep showing up with God. Even when they're facing things that to me would seem like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I think of folks, we see it is in our prayer hall. You see it every week in our prayer hall. If you've ever been in our prayer hall, you know it goes down in the prayer hall. That's like the most exclusive club in the city of Chicago. We got stanchions, we got bodyguards. I mean, it's a whole thing over there, right? Because people just, when they come in there, what they're saying is, I want to overcome. I believe I can overcome. Someone speak the name of Jesus over me so that I can overcome. I think about all the folks in our church. Think about a couple in our church who's been coming for a little while now. And one of them in this couple, they grew up with significant harm, damage from the church, from religious leaders, a lot of just unacceptable things. And so the fact that they feel safe and seen and at home in a church is a very big deal for them. And they would tell you that it's incredibly important in this season because they are struggling and struggling and struggling to start a family. And they've faced heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. And yet still somehow they keep showing up. Even in the face of what they thought would be their dream, where they thought their life would be, and it's not yet. They're not giving up on God. They're trusting him to see them through. I think of a woman who actually may be joining us right now online, who's connected to our church, a part of our church. She's a single mom, and she is fighting cancer right now. Fighting. For those of you who've ever fought that, for those of you who know someone who has, for those of you who've walked with someone, you know what a battle that is, how it takes all of you. And she's fighting as a single mom, fighting cancer. And yet, for some reason, it would be so easy to say, God, look at all the disappointment, all the setback, all the ways my life was not what I thought it would be. It would be so easy to quit, to throw in the towel, to give up on God. But she keeps showing up, keeps joining. In fact, she's a part of a table group here in our church. She's committed to being in the table. Some of y'all live like 2 minutes away and you can't even make it to a table group. It's like several states away and joins online because she's not going to give up, because she knows that there's a victory that's actually already hers. It's been secured by Jesus. It's coming. It's coming. I think of a student in our church who's faced a very difficult diagnosis, just real hardship in their health. And they've been carrying it for a while now. And because of it, it's caused them to sort of miss some major milestones of what it means to be a teenager. And some of y'all remember some of those significant milestones. Some of y'all, it's been a minute since you remember those days, but just nod your head like you remember what I'm talking about. And they've had to miss some of those, and they've had to be in hospital stays, and they've had to go get treatments, and it's kept them from having that full sort of experience, and yet they keep showing up. They keep pouring their heart out to God. You know, as a teenager, more faith than I feel like I've got at times. Keep going to our prayer hall. Keep asking God for healing over their life. They're not quitting. Why? Because they know that there's a victory that is already theirs. It's already theirs. And I could go on and on and on and on. There are so many people in our church that are holding so much. But this one simple idea that Jesus gave us, I honestly believe whatever it is that you're facing has the power to change your perspective, to cause a shift in your life, to sort of radically reframe how you're looking at whatever it is that you are facing. And so to take this wisdom of Jesus, this promise of Jesus, this declaration of Jesus, to take that into our everyday life, I thought maybe there might be a little simple prayer that we could all pray this week. A little mantra, maybe a little meditation, an invitation to a deeper kind of faith in light of whatever it is that you may be facing. And And so I wonder this week, when you find yourself up against it, maybe at work or at home, you know, it's like, man, this is hard. This is difficult. Never been here before. Don't know what to do next. Maybe it's in a relationship. Maybe it's in your finances. You already know what it is. But when you find yourself coming up against it, would you have the courage? Would you take heart to pray this simple prayer? I can come to the one who's overcome. I can come to the one. I can come to the one who has overcome. I have full access to the full authority of Jesus. Authority over this life, of my life, and over this world. I can come to the one who's overcome, to remind yourself of that. No. I'm not on my own. I'm not doing this all by myself. I'm not alone. I haven't been abandoned by God. I haven't been forgotten by God. I haven't been forsaken by God. I actually have full access to God. I can come to the one who's overcome and claim that victory is mine over this situation. What if you prayed that because you know when you start to feel it, you start to get nervous, you start to get stressed, you start to get yourself all worked up. What if you could just stop and center and go, no, I'm going to come to the one who has overcome. When I don't know where else to go, when I don't know how much more I can take, when I've come to the end of myself, I can come to the one who's overcome. I can come as I am, full of fear, full of faith, heartbroken, hopeless, whatever it may be. You can come to the one who is overcome and just simply take heart. Take heart. Story's not over yet. Victory's already been won. Because you already know in this world, you will have trouble. But in Jesus, you will have peace. So I want to give us an opportunity to experience that peace right now here in this moment. And I'm going to ask you to do something we're just going a little old school church today. I'm going to ask you to do something. If there's something that you're facing right now in your life and you just feel like, man, I'm just up against it. Like I said, I've given all the caveats. Could be finances, could be a relationship, could be a work, whatever it is. But you know what it is. Diagnosis, you know what it is. And you're feeling that overwhelm. You're feeling like you don't know how you're going to make it. Would you have the courage, would you take heart today and be willing to just simply stand up right now where you're at in this room and just open your hands up? Would you be willing to feel like, yeah, it may not be the biggest challenge of your life, but it's significant enough. Maybe it's why you're here today. Would you just be willing to say, yep, I'm up against it right now? And would you be willing to just sort of maybe open your hands up and just, if it helps to close your eyes and just go, just think about what it is. Think about all the thoughts you've thought about it, all the schemes and strategies and things you've tried to come up with, and would you just be willing to bring it all to Jesus and say, it's yours, it's yours. You have already overcome this. It seems impossible to me. You've already overcome it. And here's what I want us to do to be the church today. If anyone is standing right now anywhere near you, would you stand up next to them and gently and lightly put a hand on their shoulder? Anyone, anywhere who's standing up. And if you think this is for someone else, it's not. It's for you. Stand up, put a hand on their shoulder. Don't let anyone stand alone. All you have to do is just put it. I'm not going to make you do anything weird. All you're doing is just reminding them that they are not alone. You're reminding them that they are not on their own. You're reminding them that there is a God who is near, who is here, who is not only with them, but is for them, so they can take heart. You can take heart today. So let me pray for us. God, we thank you for this encouragement. One verse is all we need. One word from you, Jesus. Take heart. That peace is here. It's present. It's possible to us. And it's not found in this world. We already know what we'll find in this world, so we want to find it in you today. I pray for every single one of my brothers and sisters right now who are holding more than they can bear, who are sitting with more than they ever thought they would, who are up against it, who maybe feel defeated, who feel discouraged, who feel overwhelmed, who feel undone. I just pray even with that little hand on their shoulder, it would be a reminder of God, you are with them. They are not alone. You walk with them through it. You will carry them through it, that the victory has already been won. You have already overcome. So they can take heart today. Jesus, I thank you even for the song that we're about to sing, how it came out of pain and struggle. As our worship leaders came together and shared the heavy things on their hearts, you gave us the gift of these words. And I pray, God, that it would speak beyond notes, beyond measure, beyond anything we could comprehend to the heart of every single person who feels overwhelmed right now, that they would just simply be able to take heart in this moment and be reminded that you are good. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.